On my 18th birthday party, my childhood sweetheart and fiancé Ethan publicly announced our breakup. He declared his true love was Sophia, the underprivileged student the Clark family had sponsored. Overnight, I became the laughingstock of our social circle. With tearful smiles and fractured composure, I gracefully conceded, relocated our family businesses overseas, and disappeared from the scene. What nobody knew was this. Standing at the airport surrounded by mountains of luggage, I couldn't help complaining, our company's record is spotless. It's not like we're never coming back. Was this frantic escape really necessary? My mother, obliviously scrolling through 300 European travel blogs behind her oversized sunglasses, remained silent. My father kept muttering about avoiding political fallout, terrified we hadn't moved fast enough. When I posted my impending return on Facebook, old friends immediately added me to a new group chat. Recognizing familiar faces through profile pictures and nicknames, I found myself swept into planning a homecoming party where I'd supposedly drink 5 years' worth of penalty shots. Playfully begging for mercy in the chat, my finger hovered over the one silent profile. Ethan. Ethan, could you pick me up? I typed. There's urgent matters about Mr. Clark's business relocation that I need to discuss with you before approaching Mr. Harper. Ethan and I had grown up together, our childhood friendship blossoming into engagement before everything collapsed. 5 years ago, the Clark family immigrated to develop cutting-edge new energy technologies. Now with China's demand for advanced industries, Mr. Clark decided to bring everything back. Mr. Harper, currently heading overseas investment initiatives, desperately needed a political win after recent controversies nearly tarnished his career. The chat froze. Minutes stretched before Ethan's terse reply, fine. Smiling, I added, let's invite Sophia too. It's been ages. Sophia, the scholarship student who'd quietly entangled herself with Ethan during those years I'd meticulously supported him through military academy applications. So determined was Ethan to protect her from imagined harassment that he'd chosen my coming-of-age celebration to humiliate me with a public breakup. Even enduring 3 days kneeling in the Harper family courtyard without food or water until his parents relented. His subsequent military posting in the remote northwestern regions for 5 years. Clawing his way up the ranks to earn this homecoming, all to legitimize his relationship with Sophia. Their wedding invitation had reached me overseas. Embossed digital script announcing the culmination of his stubborn crusade. Watching the silent chat window, I smiled. Of course I'd attend. Congratulations were in order. At the airport arrivals gate, I found Ethan leaning against a rugged SUV. Cigarette smoke curling around, features hardened by time and military discipline. 5 years had carved his youthful arrogance into something colder, more implacable. Yet even this glacial exterior couldn't conceal the tension coiling through him as our eyes met, the first encounter since our world shattered. Yet he treated Sophia with gentle care. His gaze lingered on me, seeming to scan me twice before recognition dawned. I casually tucked my ear-length bob behind my ear. Teasing. What? Don't recognize me anymore? He stubbed out his cigarette, avoiding eye contact. But I caught the flicker of nostalgia in his eyes before he looked away. The highway blurred past as familiar cityscapes morphed into foreign silhouettes behind us. The Clark family's relocation complied with all legal procedures, involving mature industries crucial to domestic supply chains. Every bureaucratic step had proceeded smoothly. Truthfully, there'd been no need for Mr. Harper's intervention. This entire arrangement served as a litmus test to gauge Ethan's resistance to my reappearance, to see if the Harper family would claim this readily available political triumph. I'd bet everything that 5 years had softened past grievances, allowing our childhood bond to resurface. Ethan personally coming to retrieve me answered all my questions. His current tension, the rigid line of his jaw meant to keep me at arm's length. Meaningless posturing. The silence stretched until I broke it. Congratulations on the upcoming wedding. He finally unclenched his jaw, working it sideways before grunting acknowledgement. I'm surprised you reached out. Thought you'd hate us. His eyes remained fixed on the road, refusing me even peripheral attention. My laughter sounded airy, though I carefully lowered my pitch. Why would I hate you? Relationships require mutual consent. I let the words hang before continuing, nostalgia seeping into my tone. Besides, that's all in the past. We'd grown up as courtyard neighbors, the Harper and Clark families maintaining close ties even after his father's political promotions and my father's entrepreneurial leap. Everything shattered when my engagement dissolved, forcing our family's humiliating retreat from the only home I'd known for 18 years. Sophia entered our lives as a scholarship student from rural counties. I still remember her mountain of a mother storming into our classroom, intent on dragging her daughter into an arranged marriage. Sophia's deer-in-headlights panic as she screamed, "I want to study, not get married," awakened every news story I'd read about child brides sold for dowries. I mobilized our classmates to shield her, convinced father to fund her education through college. Yet the girl I rescued from the flames stole my fiancé the moment my back turned. Even during the years we spent abroad, Sophia continued using my family's financial support. It was then I realized those pitiful teary eyes that once tugged at heartstrings might have been gazing past me at Ethan. Our social circle never approved of Sophia, maintaining an unspoken agreement to exclude her from gatherings. She didn't even have a place in our group chat. Does Sophia accompany you to the cemetery every New Year's Day now? I abruptly shifted the conversation to Ethan's most sensitive wound. New Year's Day marked his grandmother's passing. Their close bond had been shattered by sudden illness, the old woman slipping away during holiday celebrations. Ethan once told me she'd held his hand through the final moments, counting down to the new year before leaving. Since then, he'd maintained the ritual of spending midnight vigil at her gravesite. My question caught him off guard. He paused before answering with self-deprecating humor, "She hates the cold. New Year's always brings snow, and she prefers partying with friends." We stopped going. Memories surfaced of our past vigils in bleak winter cemeteries, dead branches clawing at gray skies. My secret attempts to warm his flower-clutching hands with hidden heat packs through countless winters. But Sophia's aversion to chill had rewritten traditions. My bitter smile faltered as I noticed his knuckles whitening on the steering wheel. "I'll visit Grandma Harper myself soon. Wonder if she's mad at me for staying away." He finally glanced my way. Words caught in his throat when his phone lit up the car's display, Sophia flashing across the screen. After hesitant moments, he answered. Her voice spilled through speakers, "Ethan? Where are you? You promised we'd go shopping today." Color rose to his ears. "Emergency errand. I'll be back soon." The pause stretched before her accusatory whisper came, "Emily's returning today. Are you with her?" His eyes darted to me. I mimed, zipping my lips. After placating her with excuses, Ethan ended the call and rubbed his right earlobe, that familiar tell from our past when he'd lied to his family. Only then did I recognize the ghost of the boy I once knew. Why deceive her? You know how she gets. His fingers drummed the wheel. She'd never approve of me picking you up. Better to avoid complications. Especially after what happened. No debts between us. I stared at passing highway dividers. We're still friends beyond the broken engagement, aren't we? His profile tensed, caught in some private reverie as the city skyline swallowed our silence. The tension that had been building suddenly dissipated, and Ethan smiled with genuine relief. Right. We're still friends. I smirked teasingly about his protectiveness towards Sophia, gazing out at the bustling downtown through the window. The atmosphere somehow returned to our old ease. I had Ethan drop me off at the university. He casually asked who I was meeting as I scrolled through my phone. A blind date. I answered offhandedly. The fragile warmth between us shattered instantly. Pretending not to notice the renewed chill, I continued complaining. My father insisted I meet this investor's son from Harbor City doing research here. We chatted online, seemed decent enough to fly back for. Though honestly, I leaned closer conspiratorially. I hear those second-gen rich kids from the South play around way more than our circle. At least we know our own. The barb landed exactly as intended. Ethan's expression froze momentarily before he schooled his features. The local options aren't exactly prize catches either. He muttered. I laughed, counting off familiar names on my fingers. Daniel? Ryan? Ben? Alex? You're telling me to lower my standards? Our eyes locked for a prolonged moment before I finally unbuckled my seatbelt. Softly, almost to myself, I added, I need someone who'll choose me without hesitation. Every time. He looked away. Silent. Outside. Tree branches bent under the wind. I shivered dramatically. Forgot how harsh the weather here is. I admitted sheepishly, eyeing his jacket in the back seat. He wordlessly handed it over. The fabric still carried his cologne when I confirmed he'd attend tonight's welcome dinner. Perfect. I beamed, waving goodbye. It's been too long since we all hung out. That evening, Ethan arrived alone. Though everyone noticed Sophia's absence, no one dared mention it. Clinking glasses and tipsy laughter filled the room, but he remained uncharacteristically quiet. During his bathroom break, someone slid into his vacant seat. Emily, you know they're getting married, right? I drained my champagne. Thank God she didn't come. She'd have ruined the vibe anyway. Clinging to Ethan like he's some trophy. Spotting movement at the doorway, I quickly interjected. But who are we to judge? They're happy together. Ethan re-entered precisely as silence fell. Dozens of eyes darted between us. Smiling serenely, I raised my glass to the gossip. Since I'm single now, maybe you can set me up? Tall, handsome, I'll even consider being a sugar mommy if necessary. The tension broke into laughter. Girlfriends from my school days swarmed me, joking about my impossible standards. By night's end in the gilded hotel lobby, everyone lingered despite the late hour, reluctant to let the fragile camaraderie fade. Before I could protest, several social gatherings were already scheduled for me. Ethan stood apart from the crowd. My gaze drifted past the others to where he stood rigidly, eyes downcast in silence. Ethan, I called out cheerfully. Do you still live in the gated community? Could you give me a ride if it's on your way? He startled at my voice, gaze snapping up with visible discomfort. It might not be convenient. Oh. I let disappointment color my tone as I shrugged off his jacket and handed it back, watching him retreat like a man fleeing battle. My lips curved in secret amusement. I'd already caught the fleeting silhouette of a slender figure near his car. After the welcome dinner, Ethan remained quietly in my contacts while I focused on establishing our company's domestic branch. By New Year's Eve, all paperwork was finalized. My parents returned from overseeing overseas operations just as Ethan reached out. His father had invited both families to dine together. Our family's acquaintance began when our fathers worked as colleagues, later strengthened by living in the same compound. But when my father first left his stable job to start his business, the Harpers grew distant. Mr. Harper openly criticized Dad for abandoning their shared professional ambitions, sneering about the stench of greed. Only after Clark Enterprises flourished did their frosty demeanor thaw. At subsequent dinners, Mr. Harper would lament over drinks, Emily's father. I was just bitter about losing my right-hand man at the office. My father would clink glasses lower in deference, murmuring, we both found success in different paths. Harper. That's what matters. When the broken engagement happened 5 years ago, my furious parents stormed the Harper residence. Our families hadn't communicated since, until now. I forwarded the invitation to the father who'd once wanted to pack up and flee with all their possessions. Only after receiving his reluctant approval did I confirm with Ethan. Just as I thought the conversation would end. About visiting Grandma next week, are you free? His message popped up as I browsed social media. Sophia's engagement updates flooded my feed, meticulously curated posts flaunting romantic gestures like a cat hissing at intruders. Of course. I typed back. But 5 years of silence had eroded even the closest bonds. When we arrived at the private dining room, Sophia already stood among the Harpers. Her eyes darted away as she shrank back half a step at my entrance. She seemed to shrink under my gaze. Mr. and Mrs. Harper wore uncomfortable expressions, silently urging Ethan to fill the awkward silence at the dinner table. Yet I maintained perfect composure, clinking glasses with the Harpers while reminiscing about old times with clear, steady eyes. The atmosphere gradually warmed as we drifted into shared memories. 20 years of friendship with Ethan, even with 5 years of radio silence, left countless stories to revisit. We laughed about the barren persimmon tree in our old neighborhood that finally bore 3 meager fruits this year, and the once ferocious guard dog now toothless yet still snarling at passers-by. Remember how you stopped building snowmen during New Year's after I left? I casually mentioned, swirling my wine. The table erupted when I added, Ethan's snowmen always looked like drunken scarecrows anyway. Sophia's smile froze. She tugged Ethan's sleeve, voice trembling. You know how to build snowmen? But you always refused when I asked. Ethan's laughter died though his hand closed over hers protectively. Your frostbite scars, he murmured. I didn't want you reliving that pain. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes as silence engulfed the table. I studied this girl I'd once rescued, the scholarship I'd convinced Mr. Clark to grant, saving her from alcoholic parents and a dropout brother. I'd freed her from being sold into marriage, only to watch her trade one cage for another through this engagement. When she ducked her head beneath my scrutiny, I turned to Mr. Harper. Wedding bells soon? My congratulations. The older man sighed. They're rushing into this. So many unresolved matters. When destiny knocks, you answer. I countered smoothly. Emily. Ethan suddenly addressed me, fingers whitening around his glass. Will you attend? The childhood nickname hung between us like unspoken challenge. Of course. I smiled, tasting the lie. I've prepared an extraordinary gift. The clink of silverware against porcelain echoed through 5 years of buried history. Time had eroded suspicion, leaving only this dangerous nostalgia. How could we not ache for what we'd lost? We'd been mirror images matching passions, complementary minds, a lifetime of private jokes. The ghost of our past lingered in every toast, in every glance heavy with unspoken words. The tragedy wasn't in what we'd lost, but in knowing exactly how much we'd once possessed. The most crucial thing now is that the Harper family needs the Clark family's assistance. I started posting nostalgic updates visible only to him on my social media feed. The open field where we used to play was now skyscrapers. The riverside where we released lanterns during New Year's had guardrails installed. The bookstore where we read novels after class still existed, though under new management. Piece by piece, I laid these remnants of the past before Ethan's eyes. As expected, Ethan's call came before I finished posting all these memories. Emily, do you remember that chestnut cake shop in the alley across from our school? Of course, I replied. You complained about unpeeled chestnut shells, but it turned out you hadn't washed your hands after basketball practice. His voice held a faint smile after a pause. The basketball hit you that time too. I laughed, finally remembering your accidental assault, offering to buy me chestnut cakes as apology. The owner's still there, looking even rounder now. Ethan hesitated briefly before agreeing. No time like the present. We'll have to queue with students otherwise. I readily accepted, casually liking Sophia's new wedding dress selection post before leaving. When Ethan found me, I'd already bought chestnut cakes and freshly roasted candied nuts, perched precariously on the high guardrail while swinging my legs. Get down! He lunged to pull me, causing me to lose balance and clutch his shoulders desperately. Still sitting in dangerous spots like old times? His worried eyes met mine as I nimbly dropped back to safety, maintaining deliberate distance despite our brief contact. Reliving memories got me carried away. I handed him a box with a bright smile. Early bird special. Try some? Ethan stared blankly at the dessert before murmuring, I was supposed to treat you. Since when do we keep score? My forced cheerfulness contrasted with downcast eyes. During our school days, Ethan's strict family had monitored his allowance through campus cards. Countless times he'd borrowed from me for snacks or gadgets, solemnly promising repayment with holiday money and meticulously recording debts in notebooks. But those youthful transactions paled against what truly remained unsettled between us. The silence stretched until chestnut fragrance thickened the air again. His phone rang abruptly. Yes. Sophia. Working. I'll be home for dinner. Got some chestnut cakes. Amid bustling traffic. The shrill accusation from his phone pierced through clearly. Why do you always forget I'm allergic to chestnuts? Ethan froze in uncertainty. He pressed his lips together before coaxing gently. Your parents love these. But if you don't, I'll bring you something else. The call ended abruptly. His brows furrowed with faint irritation as he awkwardly cradled the box of chestnut cakes. Caught between discarding or keeping them. I patted his shoulder. Women always care about these little gestures. Gestures? He massaged his temples wearily. Haven't I done enough already? The rhetorical question hung between us. I wanted to revisit campus with you. Ethan sighed. But let's do it another time. I nodded, claiming prior commitments to avoid sharing his car. As his black sedan disappeared, I dialed Dad. Wasn't there some village engagement dispute involving Sophia at the company recently? That evening, I curated my social media with calculated nostalgia side-by-side comparisons of alma mater then and now shots, culminating in glossy chestnut cake photos. The caption read, same places, different faces. Ethan's comments and DMs flooded in, left deliberately unanswered. During my father's crucial business expansion phase, former acquaintances emerged like mushrooms after rain. While Mr. Clark inspected retirement properties beyond the family compound, I became the de facto liaison juggling corporate negotiations with endless social obligations. Ethan's messages sank beneath waves of new invitations. Emily. A half-stranger slurred at a cocktail lounge weeks later. Neon lights softening edges. What really happened between you and Ethan? The room stilled as crystal clinked. Swirling my drink, I smiled toward the entrance. Simple, called-off engagement. He pursued true love. Ethan materialized at that precise moment. Someone shouted about latecomers drinking penalties. He took a seat 2 cushions away. The space between us charged with unspoken history. The air around him radiated icy detachment. After sitting down, he downed 3 glasses of alcohol that others had passed him without a word. I tilted my head to study Ethan. My vision slightly blurred as I cautioned with exaggerated seriousness. You shouldn't just drink whatever people hand you like that. His gaze sharpened like daggers. I merely chuckled carelessly. Learn from Sophia's mistakes. I added, the words dragging us both back 5 years. We just graduated high school then. That age of reckless invincibility when the world seemed ours to conquer. Our circles scattered, some studying abroad, others securing early college admissions. Ethan had been scheming ways to avoid his father's plans to ship him off to military academy. I remember moonlight glinting on the river as I fumbled for crayfish in the dark, determined to treat the stray cats in our gated community. Ethan seemed distracted that night, finally blurting out, "Wonder where Sophia will end up for college." My hands full of slimy algae and river muck. I'd shrugged. She's got decent grades. Worst case, my family can sponsor her education. The conversation barely registered at the time. Later at our graduation dinner, Sophia emerged transformed. Gone was the mousy girl, her doe eyes luminous. Cheeks flushed as she hesitantly asked, "Emily, could I try some wine?" Delighted by this uncharacteristic boldness, I nudged Ethan. Of course. I poured her a low-alcohol spritzer. You're an adult now. As long as you're safe, do whatever you want. Disaster struck. Sophia disappeared, later found unconscious by Ethan in the hotel lobby. Toxicology reports showed date rape drugs in her system. The hotel food tested clean. Only my poured drink showed contamination. Outside the hospital room, I stood frozen. Ethan paced between ICU and lab, badgering doctors for updates. I thought his agitation stemmed from concern for my reputation. Until my birthday, under similarly gentle moonlight, when he broke our engagement. Why? My voice trembled then as it did now. Ethan Harper stared coldly at me. Emily, he said, I thought you supported Sophia out of kindness. But why would you spike her drink? Is this some kind of game to you? He repeated the question, his voice hardening. I'm asking, is this fun for you? It was only then that I remembered all the strange occurrences after Sophia became close to us. Ethan had urged me to stop wearing designer clothes, to downplay my privileged background. He dragged me to cheap diners where the greasy food left me clutching my stomach in pain. When I'd ended up getting 4 fluids at the hospital past midnight, I'd naively believed his warnings about not flaunting wealth came from genuine concern. The truth was simpler. Ethan feared my unapologetic affluence would forever cast shadows over Sophia's life. To him, I was merely a childhood companion, not the irreplaceable love demanding lifelong commitment. The man who'd clawed his way up military ranks through sheer grit now sat before me, edges sharpened by years of command. I let my words hang in the air, shrugging as I lounged against the leather booth with casual indifference. My martini glass caught dim lounge lighting as I took measured sips. He shifted uncomfortably, braced for the confrontation about past grievances that never came. What's your angle here? The challenge in his voice couldn't mask lingering guilt. Me? I let drunken melancholy tinge my laugh, managing to conjure a glimmer of tears in the low light. Ethan, I just didn't want you getting hurt. Back then with Sophia, her parents' chosen fiancé was staking out that restaurant. If you hadn't noticed him when you did, the memory struck him like physical blow. Sophia's rural parents had accepted 100,000 yuan bride price to fund their son's technical college tuition. Her refusal had sparked chaotic scenes at our university gates, scenes Ethan willfully ignored during his white knight phase. Blinded by impulsive protectiveness, he'd convinced himself I orchestrated the entire crisis. Our tense silence shattered when a tipsy friend wobbled over with sloshing cocktail. Ethan, soon-to-be married man. The guy slung an arm around Ethan's stiff shoulders. Gotta hand it to you, when the whole circle was gossiping about your teenage rebellion. Who knew you'd actually stick it out? Congrats on finally getting the girl. The oblivious fool continued. Wait, where's Sophia tonight? Not that I'm complaining. Last 5 gatherings. She'd start trembling if anyone cracked jokes. We've been walking on eggshells. Man. Ethan's jaw tightened as the group closed in, forcing shots into his hand. He eventually melted into their raucous banter, the subject shifting naturally. Sophia's perfect. He mumbled into his whiskey. Just pushed for early marriage after graduation. Works for me though, stable home life's better for military careers. The ice in his glass clinked as he drained it, avoiding my gaze across the table. Wow. That's some bold talk. The crew won't appreciate hearing that from you. I protested, my drink sloshing as I gestured. I'm still single. My eyes met Ethan's gaze cutting through the noisy congratulations surrounding him. I mouthed congrats silently, but the dim club lighting obscured whatever complex emotions flickered in his eyes. When Sophia materialized in her white sundress by our booth, I thought my cocktails were playing tricks. Under the collective stare, her pale face crumpled. Tears welled in her Bambi eyes as she hugged her trembling shoulders. Ethan's relaxed posture instantly stiffened again. You said this was work. Sophia's wavering voice accused when Ethan remained silent. Her tearful gaze landed on me. Pink lips trembling. Why is she here? Ethan? I'm planning our wedding alone while you're with her? The accusation hung like smoke in the air. Before I could respond, our mutual friend Mark snorted derisively. Let's get real. Soph. Emily doing us the honor of showing up? That ship sailed ages ago. You're imagining drama that doesn't exist. An uncomfortable silence descended. Ethan stood abruptly, gripping Sophia's elbow. We're leaving. But Sophia planted her stiletto heels, fat tears splashing onto the cocktail table. Do you regret choosing me? I'm not glamorous like Emily, but I love. Enough. My voice cut through her theatrics. If you're bored, start repaying the Harper family's tuition subsidies. The waterworks stopped instantly. Sophia's face flushed crimson as she turned pleading eyes toward Ethan. Enough. Sophia. Ethan growled, dragging her toward the exit. His sharp jawline tightened with familiar frustration. Watching them go, I sipped my old-fashioned. 5 years of Ethan's white knighting for Sophia had eroded whatever schoolboy infatuation he'd once felt. Time exposed every crack in their foundation. How long could pity sustain them against reality? As the group dispersed, my phone lit up with Ethan's message, sorry about tonight. I was wrong before. Let me make it up to you and Mr. Clark. The ice cubes clinked mockingly in my empty glass. I smirked and texted Mr. Clark, who was out in the countryside searching for rare koi fish. It was time. The next morning, despite it being the weekend, loud commotion erupted outside my window. The noise made it impossible to sleep in. I checked my phone to find the group chat already blowing up. What the hell happened? I'd skipped yesterday's gathering, and now Ethan's family was causing drama? What fresh mess was this? Security mentioned some people claiming to be Sophia's relatives had registered to enter the compound, only to collapse wailing at the Harper's doorstep. Apparently, some menacing-looking guy with an aggressive little boy had kicked down their garden gate, screaming about the Harpers stealing their daughter-in-law and leaving their precious family heir motherless. They'd been escorted out by police already. What kind of soap opera nonsense was this? The 99+ messages paused abruptly at Ethan's final text, enough fucking talk. Deprived of their gossip fix in the group, people started flooding my DMs instead. The barrage of red notifications gave me a headache. I mass replied just woke up. No clue what's happening before heading downstairs. There stood Mr. Clark, cheerfully sprinkling fish food into his new aquarium housing 2 chubby koi that looked more like overfed goldfish. He scratched his head sheepishly under my sleep-deprived glare. Sweetheart. I leaked that info to Sophia's family last night. You should have seen the Harper place this morning. They made such a scene the cops got involved. I raised an eyebrow. Sophia's rural ex-fiancé had tried this stunt years ago with our family. Back when Mr. Clark signed that scholarship agreement with the Millers. They'd refused to return the $100,000 bride price after calling off the engagement. The creep actually had the nerve to suggest I'd make a suitable replacement. Until Mr. Clark threatened to rearrange his face with a golf club. Took police intervention to get our money back. Spill the tea, old man, I demanded through a mouthful of apple. Mr. Clark plopped onto the couch, practically vibrating with gossipy excitement. That Miller kid's all grown up now but still jobless. Desperate to marry but can't afford a house. They tried extorting the Harpers for a $1 million bride price to keep quiet about Sophia's shameless affair with Ethan. Whole neighborhoods talking. You think the Harpers would tolerate this? They've been model clean fingered family award winners for years. I snorted. Uncle Harper barely makes $10,000 monthly. How would they pay $1 million? Sophia's Instagram is all designer jewelry and luxury vacations. Where's that money coming from? Mr. Clark's eyes twinkled. That's my clever girl. He hummed off key while poking at his prized fish. The childhood memory surfaced suddenly. Mr. Clark starting his company. The Harpers suddenly forbidding Ethan from walking home with me. My secret notes passed in class, only to be crumpled with that familiar look of disdain later. Our families reconciled, and Ethan finally explained. His father, Mr. Harper, had forbidden our contact, claiming our entire Clark family were frauds. Fraudsters of what? Back then, I'd watch my dad's struggling business and neglected projects with aching helplessness. That's why I insisted on accompanying him to the Harper family's banquet. When our families had been close, Mrs. Harper used to adore my chubby cheeks, always declaring she wanted to adopt me as her goddaughter. My arranged engagement to Ethan had originated from those days. Naively, I thought Mr. Harper might soften if he saw me. Though Mr. Clark resisted, he eventually surrendered to my tearful begging. The seafood banquet overflowed with extravagance. Platters of Australian lobster prepared 3 ways rotated past me endlessly. Every time I reached with my chopsticks, someone spun the lazy Susan. By evening's end, I hadn't tasted a single morsel. Frustrated, I glanced at Mr. Clark, expecting my invincible father to fix the small injustice. Instead, I found him laughing obsequiously at guests' teasing remarks, downing endless toasts without eating. During rare lulls, he desperately addressed officials as Director Chi, Commissioner Wong, and Section Chief Lee, trying to pitch his projects to disinterested ears. My gaze shifted to Mr. Harper, but he sat radiant and triumphant, never sparing me a glance. Only after multiple rounds of drinks did he nod toward Mr. Clark. My father then led my hungry self to the cashier, swiping multiple credit cards to settle the exorbitant bill. After that night, Mr. Clark disappeared into constant work until his charity infrastructure designs finally made headlines. Media praised his public welfare projects for revolutionizing civic convenience. As Mr. Clark's career soared, Mr. Harper miraculously reappeared at our doorstep, and our families inexplicably reconnected. I'd assumed the Harpers' temporary coldness mirrored Ethan's and my occasional squabbles, something reconciliation could always mend. Few remembered now that shortly before Ethan publicly broke our engagement, the Harper family underwent intense scrutiny. Though investigations cleared them of illegal conduct, authorities vowed continued routine audits. Yet I knew the truth all too clearly. The Harper family had simply buried their secrets too deep, their web of connections too vast. During those days, watching Mr. Clark's hair turned gray with worry as he struggled to find an exit strategy, I understood our predicament. To outsiders, our company's successful bids for projects appeared entirely dependent on Harper family connections. No one acknowledged the proposals my parents had burned countless midnight oils to create. Few would believe any corporation could secure contracts without greasing palms. When the house of cards trembles, no egg remains intact. If the Harpers fell, our family business would inevitably collapse with them. Ethan's decision to break off our engagement became our lifeline. That's why after the breakup, beneath Mr. Clark's theatrical outrage lay sheer panic, he needed us overseas before becoming collateral damage. True to predictions, another corporation faced investigation shortly after our relocation. Finishing my apple, I checked my phone. Ethan had apologized in the group chat, postponing the wedding. By afternoon, his private message surfaced, Emily. This might be presumptuous, but are you free tomorrow? I'd like to take you to dinner. When I called, his exhaustion bled through the pleasantries. Having dealt with unreasonable protesters all day, he lowered his guard. The Harpers hate this, he confessed. But the engagement stands. After police mediation, they warned Mess. Miller's family against extortion and detained that troublemaker. But then Sophia, his voice cracked. She demanded another $1 million in dowry. Claims she needs security as someone with no family backing. We fought, but transferred the money anyway. After everything I've sacrificed, she still As Ethan reminisced about our favorite lamb restaurant, news exploded across the community group chats. The Miller's spectacle had destabilized the Harpers, forcing them to pay hush money hastily. But how much of that payment could be legally accounted for? Reading father's text, I smiled bitterly. Not a good time, Ethan. The next morning, Harper family representatives got subpoenaed. In our basement, father uncovered aging notebooks, pages yellowed but meticulously preserved. Recognizing the handwriting, I teased, "Are these the incriminating evidence against the Harpers?" Mr. Clark caressed the stack of papers, his weathered features clouded with nostalgia. Back in my government days, I was renowned as the golden pen. My policy drafts were impeccable. During promotion season, old Harper from the neighboring office claimed his father-in-law was dying, said expanded healthcare coverage after promotion could save his family. My smile froze midair. Mrs. Harper had lost her father years prior. He continued bitterly, while I buried myself in paperwork. Harper charmed the superiors. Soon he'd be leafing through my drafts to complete his assignments. I never confronted him, but the joy of writing withered. That's why I ventured into business. His voice dropped. Harper kept taking shortcuts. Approved projects for underqualified firms, the old man trailed off. Gaze drifting to corporate storage where unmarked luxury packages piled high. A single audit could trace their origins. Enough ancient history. He brightened abruptly. Your mother's back from her Sichuan hiking trip. Off to the airport. At headquarters days later, investigation updates flashed across my screen. The Harper family stood accused of multi-source bribery. The $1 million dowry meant for Sophia had been funneled to her mercenary parents. Since Mr. Harper's detainment, their former associates scattered like roaches from light. Ethan materialized at my office, desperation etching his designer stubble. "Emily," he rasped, rambling incoherently about our past until tears rimmed his eyes. "My father worked with Mr. Clark. He's innocent. You're our only hope." Laughter bubbled from my throat. "Your family's sinking ship still floats on delusions?" His trembling fingers brushed my sleeve. I summoned security. "Tell me, Ethan," I purred as guards approached. "Without corporate advantages to leech, would you have played airport chauffeur? Bought chestnut cakes from that bakery?" The blood drained from his face. Investigations snowballed over weeks. Mr. Harper's tea session with anti-corruption became permanent residency. Our gated community watched in schadenfreude and terror as more officials fell. The Harpers' empire crumbled to dust. Ethan's glittering political future evaporating midair. I traced the investigation timeline on my glass desk. Childhood memories surfaced, building stick forts with Ethan. Our parents joking about arranged marriage. The boy who'd shared his lunchbox now clawed at ruin's edge. My chest constricted not for the man, but for the corpse of what once was. Though he had committed no illegal acts, the Harper family remained an eternal stain on his reputation in that institution. The last time I saw Ethan was the day we moved. This relocation wasn't to escape baseless accusations or flee from humiliation, but because Mr. Clark's newly renovated villa was finally ready. He'd resolutely decided to bring his business operations back to the city. Ethan stood beneath the barren persimmon tree, his appearance disheveled and face gaunt. All traces of his former radiant confidence gone. Amid the pile of discarded trash, he spotted the jar of folded paper stars I'd thrown away, a birthday gift he'd given me at 16. Before we'd ever met Sophia. "Are you satisfied now?" His voice cracked. "Emily, you're heartless." I met his gaze before turning to survey the Harper family's emptied house, ransacked by investigators. The irony tasted bitter. They'd brought this upon themselves. What did any of it have to do with me? Ignoring him, I went inside to retrieve the 2 fathead fish temporarily housed in a small aquarium. Mr. Clark had sternly ordered me to safeguard these prized possessions. When I stepped out again, Ethan had vanished. Under the eaves across the way, Sophia stood shrouded in shadows. Her hair unkempt and expression venomous, a resentful specter. As I boarded the SUV, I called out to her with deliberate brightness, wishing you a lifetime of happiness together.